Christmas Eve entered Mama Dorcas' house like a loud trumpet because from 5 a.m. she was already awake stirring 3 pots of different meats at once as if she was cooking for a wedding reception instead of a small family. The aroma of goat meat was already fighting with fried chicken for who would dominate the compound, while Papa Dorcas sat outside on his plastic chair, fanning himself like a village chief and giving unnecessary commentary about how heat had suddenly increased because Christmas wanted attention. Inside the room, Dorcas stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her hair nervously and smiling at her reflection, then frowning again, then smiling again because her heart was beating like a drum at a masquerade festival, since today was the day she planned to finally announce her engagement to the family, something she had kept secret for weeks, like an exam result she was afraid to show. Dorcas was the quiet one in the family. She was the girl that didn't like shouting or arguing, and because of that, people usually forgot she even had opinions. But this time, she had come with a news that would shake the house more than a woofer. She checked her ring finger again to be sure the simple silver ring was still there. Then she whispered to herself, "God, today I will talk. Please let nobody shout me down." Meanwhile, her 3 aunties had already arrived like weather forecast of trouble. Auntie Prophetia arrived first, swinging her handbag as if she was coming to chase demons instead of eating lunch. Immediately she entered the house, she announced, "I had strange dreams today. Something wants to manifest." Nobody asked her what wanted to manifest, but they knew she would say it anyway. Then Auntie Jerusha followed with her suspicious eyes that squeezed people's secrets out of them. She responded to Dorcas' greeting with one long look from head to toe, as if she was scanning her soul. Then she muttered, "People don't just smile like this for nothing." Finally, Auntie Tabitha arrived last with fast prayer steps and loud tongue, spraying prayer greetings everywhere like air freshener. "I cover this house with the blood of Jesus before tragedy cover it." Papa Dorcas cleared his throat awkwardly and said, "Good morning too, Tabitha." By the time everybody settled down in the sitting room and food started landing on the table, the house was already noisy with gossip, laughter, and unnecessary arguments about whose jollof was the best in the family lineage. Dorcas sat quietly at the edge of the table, sweating small as if she was about to write WAEC. As Mama Dorcas dished rice into plates generously, Dorcas' heart was already doing bing bing bing, and she kept clearing her throat with small coughs, but nobody noticed because Auntie Prophetia was busy shouting about how her spirit was uneasy because a spoon fell inside the kitchen sink by itself. Finally, when everybody had eaten more than half of their food and Papa Dorcas was already loosening his belt in preparation for post-food sleep, Dorcas suddenly stood up with shaky legs and said, "Daddy, Mommy, I have something to tell you." The room reduced its volume slightly. Dorcas swallowed hard, held her fingers together and said, I'm engaged." For 2 seconds, silence sat on everybody's head like a heavy basket. Then Mama Dorcas screamed first, "Engaged?" Papa Dorcas jumped up. "Engaged? To who? Since when? Jesus!" The cousins shouted, Dorcas!" The children clapped for no reason. Mama Dorcas ran to Dorcas and held her face with both hands. "My daughter, is this true? You didn't force anybody, right?" Dorcas laughed nervously and shook her head. "No, Mommy, he just proposed." Papa Dorcas was already smiling proudly and asking big questions. Is he walking? Is he tall? Does he fear God? Can he eat eba? However, just as happiness was about to fully enter the house, one spoon fell from Auntie Prophetia's hands and hit the floor loudly. Bah! Everybody turned to her. She froze, her eyes widened, and she whispered slowly, My spirit just shifted." Mama Dorcas' smile froze, Auntie Jerusha squinted and asked suspiciously, which spirits, good one or bad one? Auntie Tabitha jumped up immediately. This is not an ordinary engagement. This thing needs prayer and serious investigation. Dorcas's joy evaporated. Papa Dorcas frowned. Investigation for what? A man proposed to my daughter, not robbery. Well, the aunties were already in full spiritual movie mode. Auntie Professor shook her head slowly. That man is hiding something. Auntie Jerusha added, all men hide something. Auntie Tabitha lifted her hands. Before wedding, we must fight this battle. Dorcas's eyes filled with panic. Mama Dorcas sat down slowly as if the chair suddenly grew tight. Papa Dorcas sighed deeply and whispered, so even engagements can't rest in this house? And just like that, the joyful Christmas announcement that was supposed to be full of laughter and celebration turned into the opening scene of a family investigation drama that nobody asked for. Dorcas stood there quietly with the engagement ring shining on her finger and fear shining in her eyes because she already knew in her heart that this Christmas would not be peaceful again. The three aunties suddenly sat together like judges about to sentence somebody who hadn't even committed any crime yet. Dorcas tried to smile and continued eating, but her hand was shaking so badly that she poured water on her rice instead of into her mouth. Mama Dorcas kept looking at her with fear and confusion mixed together like bad salad. Papa Dorcas cleared his throat loudly and asked, "So, who is this man?" Dorcas replied, "His name is Nathaniel. He is kind. He works in logistics. We have been talking for 2 years." Before she could even finish, Auntie Jerusha hissed and dropped her spoon. 2 years is enough time for a man to hide 2 wives and 3 children. Dorcas's jaw dropped. Auntie Tabitha clapped her hands together sharply. Exactly. The devil does not rest. This engagement must not enter blindly. Dorcas wanted to cry immediately. Papa Dorcas tried to argue. All of you should just stop this nonsense now. Let the girl marry in peace. But Auntie Professor had already closed her eyes and started rocking gently like a phone trying to connect to network. I am seeing shadow. A tall shadow. Something is following this engagement. Mama Dorcas gasped, Jesus! Dorcas whispered, Auntie, please don't see shadow for me today. Unfortunately, it was late because the aunties had already agreed among themselves without voting that an investigation must start immediately like national emergency. After Dorcas finished washing the plates with tears in her eyes, the aunties entered her room with authority as if they paid rent there. Auntie Jerusha opened Dorcas's wardrobe like police searching a criminal. Let me see how far this engagement has gone. Auntie Tabitha grabbed Dorcas's phone without permission. Get me his contacts. Holy Spirit will dial it. Dorcas's hands was shaking as she surrendered the phone like someone submitting her exam paper to a wicked examiner. They called Nathaniel. Nathaniel picked with a happy voice. Good afternoon, sir. But Auntie Jerusha cut him off. Don't sir me. Are you married? Nathaniel choked on air. No, ma. Auntie Tabitha added with thunder. Have you ever been married in your dreams? Nathaniel blinked into the phone. Dream? Married? Auntie Professor whispered loudly. He's hiding something. I can feel the vibration. Nathaniel cleared his throat nervously. I am not hiding anything. I am just out of town right now. Auntie Jerusha screamed. Why out of town? So you can misbehave freely, Abi? We'll soon find out. And they ended the call like courtroom judges slamming hammer. Dorcas held her head. This is not how I wanted today to go. Unfortunately, the aunties were just warming up. That evening, without telling Mama Dorcas or Papa Dorcas, the aunties carried their handbags and left the house to buy something small. But what they actually wanted to buy was trouble directly from the source. They went straight to Nathaniel's area. They entered his street like 3 undercover agents on spiritual assignments. Auntie Jerusha was the chief interrogator. Auntie Professor was the prophet. And Auntie Tabitha was the prayer backup. They met a woman at the junction and greeted her sweetly like their long-lost relative. Please, Do you know a man called Nathaniel here? The woman replied casually, yes now, he lives in that yellow house. Auntie Jerusha's eyes sparkled. Is he married? The woman laughed. No, he's single. He lives with his sister sometimes. Auntie Jerusha gasped. Sister? Which kind of sister? The innocent woman replied, his elder sister. She's a widow. But before she could add anything more, Auntie Professor had already whispered loudly, widow, I don't like how that sounds. They pretended to buy pure water from the nearby shop and then continued asking questions like journalists on election day. By the time they returned home that night, they were loaded with half information, wrong conclusions, and full drama. They entered Mama Dorcas's room like messengers of destruction. Mama Dorcas, that man has a widow in his house. Mama Dorcas screamed, widow? Jesus! Dorcas rushed out. That is his sister. But Auntie Jerusha waved her hand. You don't know that one yet. Papa Dorcas stood up angrily. All of you should leave this nonsense. You are destroying my daughter's joy with your imagination. Auntie Tabitha lifted her hand. Bros, don't fight spiritual things with grandma. Dorcas ran into her room and cried. That night, she sent a message to Nathaniel. My family is asking many questions. Please be patient with them. Nathaniel replied calmly, no problem, I have nothing to hide. But Dorcas's heart continued shaking because she knew that the aunties had only just opened their investigation file, and until they felt satisfied, joy would not rest in that house. Hours later, Christmas morning arrived with a loud noise, church bells, frying sounds, and excited shouting from neighbors. But inside Mama Dorcas's house, tension had already sat down on the sofa and crossed its legs. Dorcas woke up with a heavy chest and light head because she barely slept through the night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Auntie Professor shaking her head and saying, my spirit is not settled. She brushed her teeth like someone brushing worry instead of food, and she wore her Christmas dress without joy because even the fine clothes felt heavy on her body. Papa Dorcas woke up in a strange mood too. He cleaned his shoe with extra force as if he was polishing anger out of his heart, while Mama Dorcas moved around quietly, cooking without her usual Christmas singing because fear had caught her voice. Only the three aunties were in high spirits, whispering among themselves like people planning a wedding crash. By 10 a.m., Nathaniel arrived. He came in respectfully, neatly dressed, bringing cartons of drinks, chicken, rice, and one beautiful cake with congratulations Dorcas boldly written on it. When he greeted Papa Dorcas and Mama Dorcas with both hands and humility, anybody with sense would have felt peace immediately. But no, sense had traveled for Christmas. Before Nathaniel was fully welcomed into the house, Auntie Jerusha cleared her throat wickedly and squinted. So you are the one. Nathaniel smiled nervously. Yes, ma. Auntie Professor dropped her handbag slowly and muttered, this is the face I saw in my dream. Dorcas's heart nearly stopped. Before anybody could even offer Nathaniel water, Auntie Tabitha suddenly shouted, everybody sit down. This is a matter of destiny. Papa Dorcas stood up angrily. Tabitha, sit down yourself. This is Christmas, not crusade. But the aunties had already taken over the sitting room with prophecy. They formed a half circle around Nathaniel as if he was a criminal they arrested from the border. Auntie Jerusha started first. Young man, where exactly are you from? Nathaniel answered calmly, I am from Ondo State. Auntie Professor shook her head. That explains the shadow. Everybody turned to look at her. Papa Dorcas shouted, which shadow again? Auntie Tabitha leaned forward dramatically and asked, have you ever loved another woman deeply before? Dorcas's ears burned. Nathaniel blinked. Every woman being has a past, ma. But I am not married and I have no child. Auntie Jerusha laughed sarcastically. That is what they all say. Then she dropped the bomb. Who is the widow in your house? The room went dead silent. Nathaniel looked confused. My sister? Auntie Professor screamed immediately. Ah, he is admitting it. Dorcas rushed forward in panic. Aunties, that is his elder sister who lost her husband 2 years ago. He helps her and her child. Auntie Jerusha clapped. See explanation. Explanation always has explanation. Papa Dorcas slammed the table. Enough! Have all of you lost your senses? By now, some neighbors had gathered at the fence because they were selling Christmas entertainment for free. Mama Dorcas sat down weakly and whispered, God, why on my daughter's engagement day? Auntie Tabitha suddenly jumped up and began praying aggressively. If this man is hiding anything, let fire expose him today. Dorcas screamed, Stop it! You will destroy my life. The crowd outside started murmuring. Somebody shouted, Is he a ritual man? Another one whispered, Maybe he has another wife. Oh. Nathaniel stood there in confusion and shame mixed together. He didn't come for drama. He had only come to complete the family visitation as tradition demanded. Now, he was standing inside public disgrace. Papa Dorcas walked to his side and told him, Young man, forgive my family. This is not how we behave normally. Nathaniel nodded slowly. Sir, I have nothing to hide. I love Dorcas. That is all I know. Auntie Professor suddenly cried, If you have nothing to hide, then let heaven confirm it now. Dorcas broke down crying. Please stop! You are killing me with your mouths. By now, the sitting room had fully turned into a courtroom. Everybody was talking at the same time. No rice had been eaten, no drink had been opened, and the cake sat on the table in quiet sadness because even it wasn't invited to the chaos. Finally, Nathaniel lifted his hands. I think I should go. Dorcas screamed, No! Papa Dorcas felt as if his chest would tear open. All of you have chased away my daughter's Christmas husband. Nathaniel dropped the gifts quietly on the table and walked out slowly without any arguments. The crowd parted for him like shame clearing road for sorrow. Dorcas collapsed on the floor screaming. Mama Dorcas burst into tears, while Papa Dorcas sat heavily like a man who lost a battle he didn't even pick. And as for the 3 aunties, they stood proudly like people who had just saved someone from a destiny they themselves created with only imagination. Auntie Tabitha was the first to talk, breathing heavily as if she had just finished a marathon deliverance. We have saved this girl today. If we did not act, tomorrow she would have married problem. Papa Dorcas slowly turned his head and looked at her with his eyes filled with fire, but no strength to shout. Saved who? You have destroyed my daughter's happiness. Auntie Jerusha waved her hand as if she was brushing away grammar. Better to cry now than to cry inside marriage. We know men. Dorcas suddenly stood up from the floor like someone possessed by fresh anger. You know men, yet you have chased away all the good ones in your own lives. Leave my own alone. Everybody froze. Even Auntie Professor opened her mouth and forgot to close it. Mama Dorcas screamed, Dorcas, don't talk to your aunties like that. But Dorcas replied with tears still running down her face. Mommy, they have disgraced me publicly. What more do they want again? Papa Dorcas stood up slowly with authority returning to his bones. From now on, nobody will talk again in this house. Let us all keep quiet before we commit family murder. And so, that evening passed in bitterness. No Christmas rice was eaten. The cake Nathaniel brought remained untouched like a monument of shame, while the neighbors returned to their houses carrying the gist of the season like a trophy. That night, Dorcas cried until sleep carried her by force. Mama Dorcas cried quietly on her bed. Papa Dorcas did not even sleep at all. Meanwhile, far away from the chaos, Nathaniel arrived at his house, dropped his bag on the table, and sat down quietly like a man whose heart had been cracked into 2 equal parts. His elder sister, Auntie Grace, the so-called widow, came out from the room with her young son when she heard the door open. She looked at him with concern. Nathaniel, what happened? Why are you back early? Nathaniel didn't answer immediately. He just stared at the wall for a while before saying in a low voice, Dorcas's family chased me away today. Auntie Grace's hand flew to her mouth. Chased you away for what? Nathaniel sighed deeply. They said you are my hidden wife and your child is my secret son. For 3 seconds, Auntie Grace just stood there shocked as if electricity hit her but forgot to shock her properly. Then she screamed, Jesus Christ of Nazareth! The child innocently asked, Uncle, am I your son? Nathaniel nearly cried. That was when Auntie Grace lost it completely. So, this is what people are doing to you? They want to spoil your future because you are helping your sister? She tied her wrapper tight immediately. We are going there tomorrow. I will carry this child like an evidence. Let them see the truth with their eyes. Nathaniel tried to calm her down. Please, don't go and cause fights, oh. But Auntie Grace was no longer listening. If the truth does not shout now, the lie will be crowned king tomorrow. The next morning arrived with heat and tension. At exactly 8:15 a.m., when Mama Dorcas was sweeping outside and Dorcas was still lying on the bed with swollen eyes, a taxi suddenly parked sharply in front of the house like an emergency van. Mama Dorcas looked up. Who is that coming this early? Before anyone could answer, Auntie Grace stepped out of the taxi carrying her son on her back and holding Nathaniel's hand with authority. Papa Dorcas rushed outside. What is going on? Auntie Dorcas greeted him respectfully but sharply. Good morning, sir. I am the widow in your investigation. Papa Dorcas blinked fast. Inside the house, the 3 aunties also rushed out immediately like ants smelling sugar. Auntie Jerusha whispered, see her, I told you. Auntie Grace dropped her bag on the floor and faced them. Which one of you said I am a hidden wife? Silence held everyone by the neck. She continued angrily. Which one of you said this child is a secret son? The boy looked at Dorcas and waved cutely. Good morning, Auntie. Dorcas's heart started beating again. Papa Dorcas turned sharply to the aunties. Answer her now. Can't you talk again? Auntie Professor stammered. We only saw vision. Auntie Grace laughed bitterly. Your vision does not know my dead husband that died on the hospital bed 3 years ago, Abi. Your vision did not see burial, tears and coughing, Abi. Mama Dorcas screamed, dead husband? Auntie Grace nodded angrily. Dead and buried. This boy's father is no longer alive. Nathaniel has been the one helping us since. That is his only crime. The compound went completely silent. Neighbors began gathering again because drama had returned for episode 2. Dorcas ran and held Nathaniel. Why didn't you come back yesterday? Nathaniel whispered. I was ashamed. Papa Dorcas suddenly faced the aunties with anger. So, this is the shadow you saw? So this is the demon you wanted to cast out on Christmas? Auntie Tabitha dropped to the ground slowly in embarrassment. Auntie Jerusha couldn't lift her eyes. Auntie Professor kept blinking as if she was trying to wake up from a fake dream. Auntie Grace adjusted her wrapper and said coldly, next time you want to destroy someone's life, make sure your vision has data. And with that statement, shame officially slapped everyone. Mama Dorcas burst into tears and hugged Dorcas. My daughter, forgive us. Papa Dorcas bowed his head heavily. Young man, forgive this family for their foolishness. Nathaniel nodded quietly, but the damage was already done. Trust had been wounded and dignity had been bruised. Love had been dragged through the Christmas dust. And the aunties stood there like prophets without any more prophecies, exposed by reality. Nobody talked for a long moment because each person was busy counting their own embarrassment inside their chest. And even the 3 aunties who normally had big mouths that could wake dead people suddenly became quiet like a phone without a battery. Dorcas stood there holding Nathaniel's hands tightly, like someone afraid he would disappear again, while Mama Dorcas wiped her face with the edge of her wrapper and murmured again and again, God forgive us, God forgive us. Papa Dorcas took a deep breath and stepped forward slowly. My in-law, thank you for coming to clear this mess. If you didn't come today, this family would have destroyed itself with imagination. Auntie Grace nodded slowly, still angry but calmer. Sir, I came because I didn't want lies to bury the truth alive. My brother is a good man. He didn't deserve what happened to him yesterday. Papa Dorcas turned to the three aunties. Now, it is time for something you all hate very well. Auntie Jerusha frowned. What is that? Papa Dorcas replied coldly, apology. The word landed on the ground and refused to bounce. Auntie Tabitha shifted her legs uncomfortably. We only wanted to protect the girl. Dorcas cut in with shaking voice. You protected me by destroying me? Mama Dorcas started crying louder. Please, all of you, just kneel and apologize to my daughter before this house breaks completely. Auntie Professor looked around, then slowly bent her knees like someone carrying an invisible load. Auntie Tabitha followed after small hesitation. Auntie Jerusha was the last. Her knees fought her for some seconds before they finally touched the ground. The neighbors watching from the fence gasped. Dorcas stood there shaking with tears rolling freely. Auntie Professor spoke first with a broken voice. Dorcas, forgive me. I thought I was saying things, but my eyes were full of imagination. Auntie Tabitha followed. Forgive me. I turned prayer into weapon and wounded your happiness. Auntie Jerusha spoke last. Forgive me. I have been suspicious for too long. I forgot that not every man is my enemy. Dorcas cried harder and held her face. I forgive you, but you hurt me badly. Papa Dorcas turned to Nathaniel. My son, we have embarrassed you. If you choose to walk away after this, nobody will blame you. Nathaniel sighed and replied calmly, I came here to marry Dorcas, not her aunties. But from today, boundaries must exist. Papa Dorcas nodded with deep respect. Of course, they will exist. Then Auntie Grace suddenly stepped forward and looked at the three aunties directly. Since you all like investigation more than rice, and you claim to have vision, go and use it to find your own husbands. Everyone burst into laughter. Even Mama Dorcas laughed small through her tears. That afternoon, the engagement was quietly restored, but this time without noise, shouting, and without crowd. As for the three aunties, their reputation in the family fell sharply like bad network. For the first time in their lives, nobody asked them for prayer, nobody asked them for vision, and nobody feared their mouths again. Even at later family meetings, when Auntie Professor tried to say, my spirit is saying, someone coughed loudly and said, spirit should rest today, I beg. And the three aunties sat quietly, eating and chewing their shame. Thank you for watching the story. Kindly share your thoughts about the story with me in the comment section. Kindly share the story out with your loved ones and give the story a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel if you've not done so by now. Until I bring another story your way. Bye!